Have you ever noticed them? That one person in your life, your colleague, your friend, maybe even your partner, who seems immune to fury. The world throws its sharpest edges at them, spills coffee on their new shirt, cancels their flight, or whispers a cruel judgment. And yet, nothing, no explosion, no rising heat, just a quiet, almost unsettling calm. There's something strange about it, isn't there? We're taught that anger is a fire, a natural, necessary human response. So, what do we make of the person who seems to have extinguished their flames entirely? We look at their placid exterior and think, wow, they're so zen. Or, they must be the most mature person I know. But here's the paradox. Sometimes the silence isn't the sound of peace. It's the sound of a very sophisticated psychological lock. What's really happening behind the stillness? Is it true emotional mastery or a quiet internal war of suppression? And what is the steep unseen price they are paying for that perfect, unshakable calm? You see them in the middle of a conflict. Everyone else is reacting, escalating, their faces flushed. But they simply listen, they nod. They offer a measured, reasonable response that feels like a glass of cold water thrown onto a bonfire. You might admire them. You might even envy them. Why can't I be like that? You ask yourself after your own minor outburst. They navigate life's friction with an unnerving grace. But here's the truth we often miss. Anger is not just destruction, it is information. It's a signal that a boundary has been crossed, a value has been violated, or a need has gone unmet. To never feel it, to never express it, that doesn't mean those violations aren't happening. It just means the signal has been systematically intercepted. We're talking about the people who, when asked if they're okay after a clear injustice, respond, "Oh, it's fine, really, no big deal." But is it truly no big deal? Or is it a psychological reflex to downplay, minimize, and disconnect from the feeling before it can take root? Think of it like this. Your emotions are a body of water. Most people let their anger create a temporary splashing wave. For the person who never gets angry, the water remains absolutely still. But sometimes that stillness is not because the storm has passed. It's because the entire body of water has been frozen solid, and this is where it gets interesting. The psychology behind this runs deeper than simply choosing to be calm. For many, this pattern is a brilliant, if damaging, survival strategy forged in childhood. We look to concepts like attachment theory. Imagine a child growing up in an environment where their anger, was not safe. Maybe their caregiver was fragile, unstable, or emotionally overwhelmed. The child's natural frustration or protest was met not with validation, but with withdrawal, punishment, or even tears. The young, developing mind makes a critical, life-altering calculation. My anger hurts the people I need. The need for connection, for safety, trumps the need for self-expression. So they learn to preemptively shut the feeling down. They become their own vigilant guard, scanning the horizon for any rising heat and extinguishing it instantly. We call this repressive coping. It's the psychological equivalent of cutting the wire to the smoke alarm. It doesn't mean there's no fire, it just means there's no warning sound. And the mechanism of repression often uses two potent tools, intellectualization and excessive empathy. Intellectualization. Instead of feeling the anger, they immediately translate it into a detached analysis. Well, I understand why they did that. They're under stress. The emotion is killed by logic. Excessive empathy. They are so finely tuned to the emotional state of others, a skill honed to maintain the peace, that they instantly step into the offender's shoes and negate their own pain. They use their understanding of the other person as a shield against their own justified feeling. But here's the thing, this isn't true forgiveness or understanding. It's an involuntary, immediate defense mechanism. They don't process the anger, they bypass it entirely. And where does the repressed emotion go? It doesn't just vanish into the ether. The long-term cost of this psychological performance is profound. If anger is a pressure release valve, what happens when it's permanently welded shut? The pressure doesn't disappear, it leaks. It leaks in silent, corrosive ways. You see it manifesting as chronic irritability, a low-grade, constant dissatisfaction with the world. They're not angry, no, never, but they are annoyed, frustrated, or endlessly critical of small, insignificant details. They are perfectionists because controlling the external world is a desperate attempt to control the chaos. They won't allow themselves to feel internally. or it manifests as deep, paralyzing anxiety. That unexpressed energy, that fight or flight response that never got to fight or flee, turns inward. It sits in the gut, in the chest, constantly preparing for a threat that, to their body, is always present. The quiet person who never argues is often the one whose mind is the loudest, most chaotic space in the room. But perhaps the most insidious consequence is the impact on their relationships. Remember the power of mirror neurons? When someone genuinely expresses a feeling, our brain mirrors it, allowing us to connect and understand. The non-angry person, by filtering their authentic feeling, becomes difficult to truly know. Their loved ones often feel a distance, a lack of access. They feel like they're walking on eggshells, not because the person will explode, but because they fear the person will quietly, politely disappear. The very thing they fear, conflict, is what they accidentally create, because true intimacy cannot exist without the safety to express one's full, messy human self. The non-angry person often doesn't realize that in trying to maintain a perfect, peaceful image, they have inadvertently communicated a devastating message to the world. My feelings are less important than your comfort. Visual. The camera pulls back from the close-up, showing the person in a more open, sunlit space. Music. The piano returns, now warmer and more hopeful. Narrator. So, how do we gently reframe this? This is not a moral failing. This is a very old, very effective, but now very outdated map for navigating the world. It's time to offer gentle reframe, not a harsh judgment. If you are this person, the one who never gets angry, here is your moment of quiet revelation. Your stillness is power, but it is not wholeness. The task is not to start screaming, but to recognize that the energy you suppress can be transformed into something constructive. The first step is to treat your anger not as a threat, but as a terrified messenger. You don't have to obey the messenger and start a fight, but you do have to read the letter. When you feel that faint flicker of annoyance, that familiar urge to minimize, pause. Instead of saying, "It's fine," try asking yourself 3 quiet questions. 1. What is the boundary that just got crossed? 2. What is the need that is currently unmet? 3. If I was allowed to be angry right now, what would I want to say? This is not a license for volatility. This is a path to clarity. Anger, when acknowledged, becomes assertive energy. It becomes the ability to say, calmly but firmly, "That doesn't work for me," or "Please don't speak to me that way." And here's what's fascinating. When you stop being so terrified of your own inner fire, you can actually start to control it. You move from repression, pushing the feeling down, to regulation, noticing the feeling and choosing your response. True peace isn't the absence of emotion, it's the willingness to hold all of your emotions without letting them destroy you. To the person who has perfected the art of not getting angry, I see you. I validate the immense, exhausting energy it takes to maintain that perfect veneer. It kept you safe once. It made you acceptable. But you are safe now. You are more than acceptable. You deserve to be seen entirely, flaws and all. The silence you've offered the world is a beautiful thing, but don't let it become a tomb for your true self. Open the window. Let the air in. Allow the water to move again. The goal is not to trade one extreme for another. It is simply to embrace the full spectrum of your humanity. Because when you allow yourself to feel the heat of your anger, you simultaneously unlock the deeper capacity for true joy, boundless compassion, and profound peace. A stillness that comes from a place of choice is far more powerful than a stillness that comes from a place of fear.